Hello there, and welcome to Sleep Science, where we explore fascinating science in a quiet, relaxing way that helps your mind unwind and drift off to sleep. Before we begin tonight's gentle journey, feel free to share what time it is and where you're listening from. It's always wonderful to know where these quiet little science stories are drifting off to. Tonight, we're diving deep beneath the waves to meet one of Earth's most remarkable creatures, the octopus. Soft-bodied, eight-armed, and quietly astonishing, octopuses are perhaps as close to alien life as we may ever encounter on our own planet. So settle in, close your eyes if you like, and let's take a slow, peaceful dive into the extraordinary world of the octopus. There's no need to follow every detail, just let the gentle current of curiosity carry you wherever it will. Picture a world that would terrify and astonish you in equal measure. 500 million years ago, long before dinosaurs stomped through forests or fish learned to swim gracefully, the oceans belonged to creatures that looked like something from another planet entirely. Massive, armored cephalopods ruled the seas like underwater dragons, their shells spiraling into impossible geometries, their tentacles reaching through ancient waters with alien purpose. These weren't the soft, squishy octopuses we know today. These early cephalopods were giants, some stretching longer than school buses, their bodies protected by thick, coiled shells that could deflect the bite of any predator brave enough to try. They were the ocean's apex predators, drifting through warm, shallow seas that covered much of the earth, their intelligent eyes already watching, learning, adapting. But here's what's quietly remarkable about this ancient story. Those massive, shelled creatures were the ancestors of today's octopus. Somewhere in that 500 million year journey from armored giant to soft-bodied escape artist lies one of evolution's most fascinating experiments. The octopus, you see, is a living reminder that intelligence doesn't always follow the same path. While our own ancestors were still simple, worm-like creatures crawling along the ocean floor with barely a thought between them, these early cephalopods had already developed complex eyes, sophisticated nervous systems, and behaviors that hint at genuine intelligence. They were the first smart animals on Earth, thinking and problem-solving millions of years before the first fish developed a proper brain. The fossil record shows us glimpses of this ancient world. Shells coiled like ram's horns, chambers filled with gas to control buoyancy, tentacles lined with hooks instead of suckers. These creatures, called nautiloids, ammonoids, and belemnites, dominated the seas for hundreds of millions of years. Some developed shells that could close like protective doors. Others grew straight shells that stretched like underwater spears. A few learned to change color, an early hint of the camouflage mastery that would later become the octopus's signature talent. The ocean was their kingdom, and they ruled it with something approaching wisdom. Their eyes, already complex and camera-like, could track movement with precision. Their nervous systems, though still primitive by today's octopus standards, showed the early signs of what would eventually become one of the most sophisticated minds in the invertebrate world. These ancient cephalopods weren't just successful, they were revolutionary. They developed jet propulsion millions of years before humans invented the airplane, shooting water through specialized tubes to zoom backward through the water. They mastered neutral buoyancy, adjusting the gas in their shell chambers like natural submarines. Some species even showed early signs of social behavior, gathering in groups during mating season or following migration routes passed down through generations. But perhaps most remarkably, they were already beginning to experiment with intelligence. Fossil evidence suggests some species could learn, adapt their hunting strategies, and even use simple tools. They were the universe's first attempt at creating a truly smart ocean, and for hundreds of millions of years, it worked beautifully. The cephalopods of this ancient world lived through ice ages and warm periods, through the rise and fall of coral reefs, through the slow dance of continents drifting across the globe. They watched as the first fish evolved, as marine ecosystems grew more complex, as competition intensified. And through it all, they adapted, evolved, and thrived. Their shells tell stories of ancient seas, preserved in limestone and shale like nature's own library. Some grew in perfect spirals, following mathematical patterns that wouldn't be discovered by humans for hundreds of millions of years. Others developed ridges and spines that speak to lives spent hiding in crevices or racing through open water. But even as these ancient cephalopods ruled their watery domain, the seeds of change were already being planted. Environmental pressures were shifting, new predators were evolving, and the ocean was becoming a more dangerous place. The armor that had protected them for so long was about to become a liability, setting the stage for one of evolution's most daring experiments, the complete abandonment of shells. Life, it turns out, is surprisingly picky about its ingredients. For hundreds of millions of years, the recipe for cephalopod success had been fairly straightforward. Take one intelligent mollusk, wrap it in a hard, protective shell, add tentacles, and let it loose in the ocean. But around 140 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period, some cephalopods decided to try something radically different. They began throwing away their shells. This wasn't a sudden decision, of course. Evolution rarely works that way, especially when it comes to abandoning something as fundamental as your house. Instead, it was a gradual process that unfolded over millions of years, driven by the relentless pressure of a changing ocean. New predators were evolving. Fish were getting faster and smarter, and the old strategy of hiding inside a shell was starting to look less appealing. The first step was subtle. Shells became thinner, lighter, more of a suggestion than a fortress. These early experiments allowed for greater mobility while still providing some protection. Picture a hermit crab gradually upgrading to lighter and lighter shells until eventually it realizes it doesn't need one at all. That's roughly what happened, though it took several million years and a lot more evolutionary trial and error. Some lineages tried internal shells, structures that provided support without the external bulk. Others developed shells so reduced they were barely there at all, gossamer-thin reminders of their armored past. Each generation faced the same basic question: is protection worth the wait? And increasingly, the ocean was answering no. The pressure came from multiple directions. Fish were evolving powerful jaws that could crack shells like nuts. Marine reptiles were developing hunting strategies specifically designed to target shelled prey. Even other cephalopods were getting better at preying on their armored cousins. In this increasingly dangerous neighborhood, a heavy shell was starting to feel less like protection and more like a target. But giving up your shell when you're surrounded by hungry neighbors seems like evolutionary suicide. Without armor, these creatures became incredibly vulnerable. Every fish, every crab, every passing predator could see them as an easy meal. In the short term, shell loss was almost certainly a death sentence for many individuals. So why did some lineages persist? The answer lies in what they gained by going naked. Without a shell, an octopus could squeeze through any opening larger than its beak, effectively giving it access to hiding places no other creature could reach. They could change shape instantly, flowing like liquid through coral reefs and rocky crevices. They could move with unprecedented grace and speed, no longer weighed down by calcium carbonate baggage. More importantly, the constant threat of predation may have been exactly the evolutionary pressure needed to drive intelligence to new heights. When you can't rely on armor, you have to rely on your wits. The octopuses that survived were the clever ones, the quick thinkers, the problem solvers. Generation after generation, The selection pressure favored brains over brawn, cunning over calcium. This transformation wasn't just about losing shells, it was about gaining possibilities. The freed-up metabolic energy that would have gone into shell production could now be invested in neural tissue, in more complex behaviors, in the development of sophisticated camouflage systems. The octopus was trading one kind of protection for several others: intelligence, agility, and the ability to disappear. The shell abandonment also freed up the octopus body plan in remarkable ways. Without a rigid shell dictating their shape, these creatures could evolve more complex muscle systems, more flexible arms, and eventually the most sophisticated camouflage abilities in the animal kingdom. They became living sculpture, able to reshape themselves to match their environment in ways that would make a professional magician weep with envy. Even today, we can see hints of this evolutionary journey in the octopus's anatomy. Hidden deep within their soft bodies, some species still carry the remnants of their shell-bearing past. Tiny, vestigial structures called stylets that serve no apparent function except as evolutionary bookmarks. They're like the appendix of the cephalopod world, reminders of an ancient inheritance that's no longer needed. The complete shell abandonment was a gamble that paid off spectacularly. The modern octopus is faster than its shelled ancestors, smarter, more adaptable, and capable of surviving in environments that would have been impossible for a creature carrying around a heavy shell. They colonized new habitats, developed new hunting strategies, and evolved into one of the most successful groups of marine predators on the planet. But perhaps most remarkably, they managed to do all of this while remaining fundamentally mollusks. Strip away the intelligence, the camouflage, and the 8 arms, and an octopus is still recognizably related to a clam or a snail. They took the basic mollusk body plan and pushed it to its absolute limits, proving that evolution doesn't always need to start from scratch to create something extraordinary. The Great Shell Abandonment represents one of evolution's boldest experiments, trading immediate safety for long-term potential. It's a decision that ripples through every aspect of octopus biology, from their remarkable intelligence to their incredible camouflage abilities. And it all started with the simple realization that sometimes, to survive in a dangerous world, you have to make yourself even more vulnerable. Have you ever tried to spot an octopus hiding in a coral reef? It's like playing hide and seek with someone who can rewrite the rules of reality. One moment you're looking at what appears to be a perfectly ordinary piece of seaweed swaying in the current, and the next, that seaweed unfolds 8 arms and jets away in a cloud of ink. It's the kind of magic trick that would make Houdini retire in frustration. The octopus is nature's ultimate quick-change artist, capable of transforming its appearance in less than 0.2 of a second. That's faster than you can blink, faster than most predators can process what they're seeing. But this isn't just about changing color, though that alone would be impressive enough. Octopuses can alter their skin texture, their shape, even the way they move to perfectly mimic their surroundings. The foundation of this remarkable ability lies in specialized cells called chromatophores, scattered across the octopus's skin like tiny, controllable pixels. Each chromatophore contains a pigment-filled sac surrounded by radial muscles, like a balloon filled with colored dye. When the muscles contract, the sac stretches, revealing its color. When they relax, the sac shrinks and the color disappears. It's living television, controlled not by electronics, but by an incredibly sophisticated nervous system. These chromatophores come in different flavors. Some contain black pigment, others red or yellow. By opening and closing different combinations of these cellular pixels, an octopus can create patterns as complex as any textile designer could imagine: stripes, spots, bands, or solid blocks of color. Researchers have observed octopuses changing their camouflage 177 times in a single hour, constantly adjusting their appearance as they move through different environments. But chromatophores are just the beginning. Beneath them lies another layer of specialized cells called iridophores, which function like microscopic mirrors. These cells contain stacks of reflective proteins that can bounce specific wavelengths of light back to the surface, creating the shimmering blues and greens that seem to dance across an octopus's skin. Think of them as nature's own version of holographic foil, capable of creating colors that shift and change depending on the angle of view. Even deeper lies a third layer, leucophores, cells that reflect ambient light to create white and silver hues. By coordinating all three layers, chromatophores, iridophores, and leucophores, an octopus can produce virtually any color combination found in its environment. It's like having a full-spectrum printer built into your skin, capable of real-time photo reproduction. But color is only half the story. The octopus's skin is also covered with structures called papillae, tiny projections that can be raised or lowered to change the texture of the skin. Want to look like a piece of coral? Raise the papillae into spiky ridges. Prefer to mimic a smooth rock? Flatten them down until the skin is glass smooth. Some species can even create complex three-dimensional shapes, transforming themselves into floating seaweed, spiky sea urchins, or craggy rocks. The speed of these transformations is what truly sets octopuses apart from other color-changing animals. Chameleons, famous for their own camouflage abilities, take 20 to 30 seconds to change color because their system relies on hormones circulating through the bloodstream. Hormones are effective but slow, like sending messages by post instead of email. Octopuses, by contrast, control their chromatophores directly through their nervous system, sending electrical signals that trigger instant changes. This neural control means that an octopus's camouflage isn't just reactive, it's predictive. They can change their appearance before they even reach a new hiding spot, preparing their disguise as they travel. It's like changing your clothes while walking from one room to another, except the clothes are your skin and you're doing it in 0.2 of a second. Perhaps most remarkably, octopuses seem to have no trouble creating perfect camouflage despite being colorblind. For years, this puzzled scientists. How can an animal that can't distinguish between red and green create camouflage that perfectly matches red and green environments? The answer, it turns out, lies in their skin itself. Recent research has revealed that octopus skin contains the same light-sensitive proteins found in their eyes. In essence, their skin can see. Each patch of skin can detect the quality and intensity of local light conditions and adjust its appearance accordingly, without any input from the brain or eyes. It's like having millions of tiny cameras built into your skin, each one capable of matching the local lighting conditions perfectly. This distributed vision system allows for incredibly sophisticated camouflage strategies. An octopus can create different patterns on different parts of its body simultaneously, matching the complex lighting patterns of a coral reef or the dappled sunlight filtering through kelp fronds. They're not just wearing a disguise, they're becoming a living piece of their environment. The camouflage abilities of octopuses extend beyond simple mimicry. Some species practice aggressive mimicry, disguising themselves as harmless creatures to approach prey. The mimic octopus can impersonate flatfish, stingrays, and even sea snakes, complete with appropriate behaviors and movement patterns. It's method acting taken to a biological extreme. Others use their camouflage for communication, creating moving patterns of color and texture that ripple across their bodies like visual languages. These displays can convey everything from territorial warnings to romantic intentions, turning the octopus's skin into a dynamic billboard of emotion and intent. The evolutionary pressure that drove these remarkable abilities was intense. Without shells for protection, early octopuses faced a simple choice: hide perfectly or become someone's dinner. Those that could blend seamlessly with their surroundings survived to pass on their genes. Those that couldn't, well, they contributed to the food chain in other ways. Today, octopus camouflage represents one of the most sophisticated examples of adaptive disguise in the natural world. It's a reminder that evolution doesn't just solve problems, it creates artists. And in the case of the octopus, it created an artist that paints with light itself. Imagine if your skin could see, not just feel warmth or cold, pressure or texture, but actually perceive light and dark, color and pattern. It sounds like science fiction, but for an octopus, it's just Tuesday. Their skin doesn't just change color, it actively watches the world around it, making moment-by-moment decisions about camouflage without waiting for instructions from the brain. For years, this ability seemed impossible. Scientists knew that octopuses could perfectly match their surroundings despite being colorblind, but the mechanism remained a mystery. How do you create a perfect visual match for something you can't actually see? It was like watching someone paint a photorealistic portrait while wearing a blindfold. The answer came from an unexpected discovery in 2015. Researchers studying octopus genetics found something remarkable. The same genes that control light detection in octopus eyes were also active throughout their skin. These photoreceptor genes were producing light-sensitive proteins in chromatophores, the very cells responsible for color change. The octopus wasn't just wearing smart camouflage, it was wearing seeing camouflage. This discovery revolutionized our understanding of how octopus camouflage works. Each chromatophore isn't just a pixel in a living display, it's also a tiny photosensor capable of detecting the local light conditions and responding accordingly. It's like having millions of microscopic cameras embedded in your skin, each one capable of making real-time adjustments to match the surrounding environment. The skin-based vision system works differently from eye-based vision. While eyes focus light to create detailed images, skin photoreceptors are more like light meters, detecting overall brightness and basic color information. They can sense whether they're in bright sunlight or deep shadow, whether the surrounding light is warm or cool, direct or filtered. This information is then used to fine-tune the camouflage response in real time. To test this remarkable ability, scientists conducted experiments that sound like they belong in a particularly creative torture chamber. They removed patches of octopus skin and kept them alive in laboratory dishes, then shone different colors of light on them. Even disconnected from the brain, the skin samples continued to respond to light, changing color to match their illumination. The skin wasn't just seeing, it was thinking. This distributed vision system offers several advantages over centralized control. First, it's incredibly fast. There's no need to send visual information to the brain, process it, and send back instructions. The skin can respond directly to local conditions, creating camouflage patterns in milliseconds rather than seconds. It's like having a direct phone line instead of going through a switchboard operator. Second, it allows for incredibly detailed responses. Different parts of the octopus's body can respond to different lighting conditions simultaneously. An octopus hiding in dappled sunlight can have bright patches on areas hit by direct light and dark patches in shadowed areas, all without conscious control. It's automatic camouflage, like having an invisibility cloak that adjusts itself. The skin-based vision system also explains some of the more remarkable aspects of octopus behavior. Researchers have observed octopuses changing color in their sleep, presumably in response to dreams or simple light changes in their environment. Their skin continues to monitor and respond to the world even when their conscious mind is elsewhere. This biological innovation has implications beyond simple camouflage. The skin's ability to see may also play a role in communication. When octopuses create complex patterns of color and texture during social interactions, each part of their skin can respond to the visual feedback from other parts, creating dynamic, self-modifying displays. It's like having a conversation where your words change in response to the sound of your own voice. The discovery of skin-based vision has also inspired biomimetic research, attempts to recreate this ability in artificial systems. Engineers are working on smart materials that can change color in response to light, potentially leading to adaptive camouflage for military applications or color-changing fabrics that respond to environmental conditions. The octopus, once again, is teaching us new ways to see the world. But perhaps the most profound implication of skin-based vision is what it tells us about the nature of perception itself. We tend to think of vision as something that happens in one place, behind our eyes, processed by our brain. The octopus reminds us that biology doesn't always follow our expectations. Perception can be distributed, decentralized, woven into the very fabric of an organism's being. This distributed sensing system is part of what makes octopuses seem so alien to us. Their experience of the world is fundamentally different from ours. Where we have centralized consciousness and focused attention, they have distributed awareness and parallel processing. They don't just look at their environment, they become it, matching its patterns not through conscious effort, but through the unconscious wisdom of seeing skin. The octopus's skin-based vision system represents a different approach to solving the problem of survival. Instead of building better eyes or faster brains, evolution gave them the ability to merge with their surroundings at the cellular level. It's a reminder that intelligence and awareness can take forms we're only beginning to understand. Every patch of octopus skin is both canvas and artist, observer and observed. It's a living example of how the boundaries between self and environment can blur when survival depends on becoming invisible. And in a world where being seen often means being eaten, the ability to see without being seen is perhaps the most valuable superpower of all. Being alive, as it turns out, is exhausting work. Every movement requires decisions: which muscle to contract, which direction to move, how much force to apply. For most animals, these decisions flow from a central command center, the brain, sending instructions down through the nervous system like a CEO, micromanaging every department. But octopuses decided to try a different approach. They gave their arms permission to think for themselves. This isn't poetic license or scientific metaphor. An octopus's arms literally contain independent nervous systems capable of making decisions without consulting the brain. 2/3 of an octopus's 500 million neurons are distributed throughout its 8 arms, creating what scientists call a distributed nervous system. It's like having 8 separate computers connected to one central server, each capable of running programs independently. The implications of this setup are quietly extraordinary. When an octopus reaches for something, it doesn't need to consciously control every movement of every arm. Instead, it can simply direct an arm toward a general target and let the arm figure out the details. The arm's local nervous system handles the complex coordination of muscles, the adjustment for water currents, the delicate grasping movements required to pick up objects. This distributed intelligence becomes even more remarkable when you consider what happens to a severed octopus arm. In most animals, cutting off a limb results in immediate paralysis, the limb rendered useless without connection to the central nervous system. But an octopus arm can continue responding to stimuli for up to an hour after being separated from the body. It can still sense touch, still react to food, still attempt to bring morsels to where a mouth should be. These severed arms don't just twitch randomly, they show purposeful behavior. They can crawl using their suckers, investigate objects with apparent curiosity, and even attempt to feed themselves. It's as if each arm carries within it a simple but complete creature, capable of basic decision-making and goal-directed behavior. It's like having 8 intelligent pets attached to your body, each one capable of helping with whatever task you're focused on. Recent research has begun to reveal the sophistication of this arm-based intelligence. Scientists using high-speed video and computer modeling have tracked how octopus arms move when the animals are exploring their environment or hunting for food. They've discovered that the arms often work independently, each one following its own search pattern, while staying coordinated enough to avoid tangling with the others. The arms also show what appears to be individual specialization. Some arms seem to prefer certain types of tasks, like manipulation or exploration, while others are more often used for locomotion or defense. It's as if the octopus has a crew of specialists, each arm developing its own expertise while contributing to the overall mission. This distributed decision-making system offers several advantages. First, it's incredibly efficient. The brain doesn't need to waste processing power on routine arm movements, freeing it up for higher-level thinking like problem-solving, spatial navigation, or predator detection. It's like having a personal assistant handle your calendar while you focus on the big picture. Second, it allows for parallel processing of information. While the brain is analyzing a visual scene or planning a hunting strategy, the arms can simultaneously be gathering tactile information about the environment. An octopus can literally feel its way through a problem while thinking about it, using multiple streams of sensory information to build a complete picture of its surroundings. The suckers on each arm add another layer of complexity to this system. Each sucker contains thousands of chemical receptors, essentially taste buds that can distinguish between different types of prey, different textures, even different chemical signatures in the water. An octopus exploring a crevice isn't just feeling around blindly, it's tasting everything it touches, building a chemical map of its environment through its fingertips. This chemical sensing ability is so sensitive that octopuses can identify objects by touch alone. They can distinguish between different types of shells, different species of crabs, even different individual fish. It's like having a sophisticated chemical analysis laboratory built into each arm, capable of providing detailed information about anything the octopus encounters. The coordination between the brain and the arms represents one of the most sophisticated examples of distributed intelligence in the animal kingdom. The brain sets general goals and priorities, while the arms handle the detailed execution. It's a management style that would be the envy of any organization. Clear communication of objectives, trust in subordinates to handle details, and rapid feedback between different levels of the hierarchy. This system also provides remarkable redundancy and resilience. If an octopus loses an arm to a predator, the remaining arms can compensate, taking on additional responsibilities without any conscious retraining. The distributed intelligence means that losing part of the system doesn't cripple the whole organism, it just redistributes the workload. The evolutionary pressure that led to this distributed intelligence likely came from the octopus's complex lifestyle. These creatures need to simultaneously monitor their environment for predators, search for food, maintain camouflage, and navigate through three-dimensional spaces. Trying to coordinate all of these activities through a single central brain would be like trying to conduct an 8-piece orchestra while playing the piano. Much better to give each musician some independence while maintaining overall coordination. Perhaps most remarkably, this distributed intelligence extends to learning and memory. Studies have shown that octopus arms can learn new motor patterns and retain them independently of the brain. An arm that learns to open a particular type of shell can remember that technique even if the brain is focused on something else entirely. The octopus's distributed nervous system challenges our assumptions about consciousness and intelligence. We tend to think of the mind as something centralized, located in one place, unified in its experience. But the octopus suggests that intelligence can be distributed, collaborative, composed of multiple semi-independent agents working toward common goals. It's a different model of consciousness, one that might be more common in nature than we realize. Once life learned the rules, it immediately started breaking them. For hundreds of millions of years, the story of animal intelligence followed a fairly predictable script. Bigger bodies led to bigger brains, which led to smarter behaviors. Vertebrates, the animals with backbones, cornered the market on sophisticated thinking. Then, along came the octopus, a creature that decided intelligence didn't require a backbone at all. An octopus brain is nothing like ours, yet it can solve many of the same problems. Where we have one centralized brain controlling our entire body, an octopus has what amounts to 9 brains, one central brain and 8 arm brains, working in loose coordination. It's like the difference between a traditional corporation with a single CEO and a collaborative network where each department has significant autonomy. The central brain, located between the octopus's eyes, contains about 170 million neurons. That might sound like a lot until you consider that a human brain contains roughly 100 billion neurons, nearly 600 times more. But raw neuron count doesn't tell the whole story. What matters is how those neurons are organized and what they're capable of doing. Octopus neurons are arranged in a fundamentally different architecture than vertebrate brains. Where our neurons are organized into distinct regions with specialized functions, octopus neurons form more fluid, interconnected networks. It's like the difference between a traditional filing cabinet with clearly labeled drawers and a modern search engine that can find relevant information regardless of where it's stored. This different organization produces different kinds of intelligence. Humans excel at abstract thinking, language, and complex reasoning. Octopuses excel at spatial problem-solving, pattern recognition, and adaptive behavior. We're good at thinking about things that aren't there. They're good at manipulating things that are. Both approaches work, they're just suited to different lifestyles. The octopus brain also processes information differently than ours. Where human thinking tends to be sequential, building thoughts step by step, octopus thinking appears to be more parallel, processing multiple streams of information simultaneously. This makes sense when you consider that they need to coordinate 8 independent arms while monitoring their camouflage, watching for predators, and searching for food. One of the most remarkable features of the octopus brain is its plasticity. Unlike many animals, octopuses continue learning throughout their lives, constantly adapting their behavior to new situations. Their brains are remarkably flexible, capable of rewiring themselves in response to experience. It's like having a computer that can rewrite its own software based on the problems it encounters. This flexibility extends to problem-solving abilities that rival those of much larger-brained animals. Octopuses can learn to navigate complex mazes, remember solutions to puzzles for weeks, and even plan for future events. They can learn by watching other octopuses, an ability called social learning that was once thought to be limited to highly social species. The memory systems of octopuses are particularly interesting. They appear to have both short-term and long-term memory, like us, but they also seem to have something like episodic memory, the ability to remember specific events from their past. An octopus can remember where it found food yesterday, what time of day it was, and what the hunting was like. It's not just remembering facts, it's remembering experiences. Sleep and dreaming in octopuses have recently become subjects of intense scientific interest. Researchers have observed octopuses changing color and texture while sleeping, suggesting they might be dreaming. If true, it would mean that REM sleep and dreaming evolved independently in octopuses and vertebrates, another example of convergent evolution producing similar solutions to the challenges of having a complex brain. The octopus brain also manages one of the most sophisticated sensory systems in the ocean. In addition to excellent vision and the distributed touch and taste sensors in their arms, octopuses can detect changes in water pressure, electrical fields, and even subtle vibrations. Processing all of this sensory information requires significant computational power, and the octopus brain handles it with remarkable efficiency. Perhaps most impressively, the octopus brain coordinates all of this while managing the most complex camouflage system in the animal kingdom. Changing color and texture to match the environment requires constant visual processing, pattern recognition, and motor control. The fact that much of this happens automatically, without conscious control, speaks to the sophisticated programming running in the background of the octopus mind. The evolutionary history of the octopus brain is still being unraveled, but it's clear that it represents an independent experiment in intelligence. The common ancestor of octopuses and vertebrates had a very simple nervous system, basically a network of nerve cells with no central organization. From this humble beginning, two completely different approaches to intelligence evolved: the centralized, hierarchical approach of vertebrates and the distributed, collaborative approach of cephalopods. This independent evolution of intelligence is one of the most important insights from octopus research. It suggests that intelligence isn't just an accident of evolutionary history, but a practical solution to the challenges of surviving in a complex environment. Given enough time and the right pressures, evolution can discover multiple paths to the same destination. The study of octopus brains has also revealed insights about our own intelligence. By comparing how different types of brains solve similar problems, scientists can identify which features are essential for intelligence and which are just quirks of evolutionary history. It's like having a control group for the experiment of consciousness. Modern neuroscience is just beginning to understand how the octopus brain works. New techniques for recording neural activity, combined with sophisticated behavioral experiments, are revealing the inner workings of this alien intelligence. Each discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of how minds can emerge from the activity of neurons, regardless of how those neurons are organized. The octopus brain reminds us that intelligence is not a human monopoly, nor is it limited to animals that look or think like us. In the vast ocean of possibility, evolution has discovered at least two ways to build a thinking creature. The octopus represents the road not taken in our own evolutionary history, a glimpse of what intelligence might look like if it had evolved along entirely different lines. At some point, life decided it needed walls. For most of Earth's history, intelligence was a social affair, emerging from the pressures and pleasures of group living. Pack animals, herd animals, flocking animals all developed smarter brains to navigate the complex politics of community life. Who's in charge? Who can you trust? How do you cooperate to hunt while competing for mates? The demands of social living, scientists believe, drove the evolution of bigger brains and cleverer behaviors. But the octopus missed that memo entirely. These creatures are thoroughly, almost aggressively antisocial. They live alone, hunt alone, and generally treat other octopuses as either potential meals or inconvenient competitors for resources. Yet, somehow, despite being evolutionary hermits, They developed intelligence that rivals many highly social animals. It's as if they discovered a completely different path to the same destination. This solitary intelligence presents a fascinating puzzle for scientists studying the evolution of cognition. If social pressures drive the development of complex brains, how did such antisocial creatures become so smart? The answer seems to lie in what researchers call the ecological intelligence hypothesis, the idea that intelligence can evolve in response to environmental challenges rather than social ones. For an octopus, the ocean is a three-dimensional puzzle that changes every day. Tides shift the landscape, currents carry new opportunities and threats, and hiding places that were safe yesterday might be death traps today. Add to this the fact that octopuses have no protective shells and are considered delicacies by almost every predator in the sea, and you have a recipe for intense selective pressure on problem-solving abilities. The octopus's intelligence manifests in ways that often seem startlingly human-like, despite their completely different evolutionary history. They use tools, not just simple ones, but composite tools that require planning and foresight. The famous coconut-carrying octopus, filmed in Indonesian waters, collects discarded coconut shells and carries them considerable distances to locations where no natural shelter exists. When it's time to rest, it assembles the shells into a protective shelter, essentially building a portable home. This behavior requires several sophisticated cognitive abilities. The octopus must recognize that the coconut shells are useful, understand that they'll be needed in the future, expend energy to transport them to a new location, and then remember how to assemble them correctly. It's tool use, planning, and construction all rolled into one behavior, and it happens in the brain of a creature that weighs less than many house cats. Problem-solving experiments in laboratory settings reveal even more surprising capabilities. Octopuses can learn to navigate complex mazes, not just by trial and error, but by apparently understanding the spatial relationships involved. They can remember solutions for weeks and apply learned strategies to new, similar problems. Some individuals even seem to develop personal problem-solving styles, approaching challenges in consistently different ways. Perhaps most remarkably, octopuses show evidence of episodic memory, the ability to remember specific events from their past. They can recall where they found food, when they found it, and what the circumstances were. This what, where, when memory was once thought to be unique to humans and a few other highly intelligent species. Finding it in an octopus suggests that this type of memory might be more fundamental to intelligence than previously thought. The emotional lives of octopuses remain largely mysterious, but there are tantalizing hints of complexity. They show what appears to be curiosity, approaching novel objects with apparent interest rather than fear. They display individual personalities, with some individuals being consistently more exploratory or aggressive than others. Some even seem to show something like playfulness, manipulating objects in ways that serve no obvious survival function. Play behavior is particularly intriguing because it's often considered a hallmark of intelligence. Play requires a certain level of safety and comfort, the ability to engage in activities that aren't immediately necessary for survival. The fact that solitary octopuses play suggests that this behavior might be driven by cognitive rather than social needs, a way for intelligent brains to exercise and develop their capabilities. The octopus's intelligence also extends to learning through observation, an ability that was once thought to require highly social animals. Laboratory octopuses can learn by watching other octopuses solve problems, even though they would never have this opportunity in the wild. This suggests that the cognitive machinery for social learning evolved in octopuses for other reasons, perhaps to help them learn about their environment by observing the behavior of other species. Communication in octopuses is primarily visual, accomplished through the same color-changing abilities they use for camouflage. They can create moving patterns of color and texture that ripple across their bodies like living neon signs. While we don't fully understand what these displays mean, they appear to convey information about mood, intentions, and territorial boundaries. It's a sophisticated communication system that doesn't require sound, scent, or physical contact. The study of octopus intelligence has profound implications for our understanding of consciousness and cognition. If intelligence can evolve independently in creatures as different from us as octopuses, it suggests that the underlying principles of intelligence might be more universal than we thought. The specific details of how brains are organized might matter less than we assumed. This has led some scientists to propose that intelligence is not just a biological phenomenon, but a more general feature of complex systems. Given the right conditions and enough time, any sufficiently complex system might develop the ability to learn, adapt, and solve problems. If true, this would have implications not just for understanding life on Earth, but for the possibility of intelligence arising elsewhere in the universe. The octopus intelligence also challenges our anthropocentric view of what smart animals should look like and behave like. We expect intelligent animals to be social, to have complex family structures, to use tools in human-like ways. The octopus reminds us that intelligence can take forms we never imagined, arising from pressures we might not even recognize. In the end, the octopus represents a parallel experiment in the evolution of mind, where our intelligence is social, collaborative, and verbal. Theirs is solitary, self-reliant, and visual. Both approaches work. Both solve the fundamental problems of survival and reproduction, but they do so in radically different ways. The existence of octopus intelligence expands our definition of what it means to be a thinking creature, and in doing so, it expands the possibilities for what kinds of minds might exist elsewhere in the cosmos. If you've ever watched a human toddler figure out how to stack blocks, you've witnessed one of the defining moments of intelligence, the realization that objects can be used as tools to achieve goals. For most of human history, tool use was considered one of our unique defining characteristics, something that separated us from the rest of the animal kingdom. Then we discovered that dolphins use sponges as fishing tools, crows fashion hooks from twigs, and octopuses carry around their own portable shelters like underwater nomads. The tool use of octopuses is particularly remarkable because it represents not just the use of objects, but composite tool use, the combination of multiple elements to create something more sophisticated than the sum of its parts. The coconut-carrying octopus, first documented in Indonesian waters, doesn't just use one shell as shelter. It collects two complementary coconut shell halves, carries them separately, and then assembles them into a complete spherical shelter when needed. This behavior requires several levels of cognitive sophistication that we're only beginning to understand. First, the octopus must recognize that the individual shell halves are potentially useful even when they're not immediately needed. This is called delayed gratification, the ability to postpone immediate rewards for future benefits. Most animals live entirely in the present moment, but tool users must be able to imagine future scenarios and prepare for them. Second, the octopus must be able to transport these tools across significant distances while remaining vulnerable to predators. Carrying coconut shells makes swimming more difficult and provides no immediate protection. In fact, it probably makes the octopus more visible to predators. This suggests that the octopus can weigh short-term costs against long-term benefits, a sophisticated form of decision-making that requires abstract thinking. Third, When the time comes to use the tools, the octopus must remember not just what they're for, but how to assemble them correctly. The shells must be oriented properly and fitted together precisely to create an effective shelter. This suggests not just memory, but understanding, the ability to grasp the spatial and functional relationships between objects. Laboratory experiments have revealed even more sophisticated tool use behaviors. Octopuses can learn to select appropriate tools for specific tasks, choosing lighter objects when speed is important and heavier objects when strength is needed. They can modify tools to make them more effective, breaking rocks into smaller pieces or bending flexible objects into more useful shapes. Perhaps most impressively, octopuses can plan tool use sequences, using one tool to obtain another tool that will help them reach their final goal. In one famous experiment, an octopus learned to use a stick to retrieve a key, then use the key to open a box containing food. This type of sequential tool use requires the ability to think several steps ahead, to understand causal relationships, and to maintain a mental model of the overall goal while working on intermediate steps. The planning abilities of octopuses extend beyond tool use to spatial navigation and hunting strategies. They can learn complex routes through their environment and remember multiple pathways to the same destination. When their preferred route is blocked, they can quickly switch to alternatives, suggesting they maintain mental maps of their territory rather than just following fixed behavioral patterns. Hunting behavior in octopuses also shows evidence of strategic planning. They don't just grab whatever prey happens to swim by, they select hunting grounds based on past success, time of day, and seasonal patterns. Some individuals specialize in particular types of prey, developing hunting techniques specifically adapted to catching crabs versus fish versus other mollusks. The octopus's approach to problem-solving often involves what psychologists call insight learning, sudden understanding rather than gradual trial-and-error improvement. When presented with a new puzzle, octopuses often pause, apparently studying the problem, then suddenly implement a solution that works on the first try. This suggests they can form mental models of problems and test solutions internally before acting. Memory plays a crucial role in octopus planning and tool use. They can remember the locations of useful objects, the timing of successful hunts, and the solutions to problems they encountered weeks earlier. This long-term memory appears to be quite detailed, including not just what happened, but when and where it happened, a type of memory called episodic memory. The social learning abilities of octopuses add another dimension to their tool use. While they're solitary in the wild, laboratory octopuses can learn tool use techniques by watching other octopuses, suggesting they have the cognitive machinery for cultural transmission. If octopuses were more social, they might develop tool use traditions that could be passed down through generations. Individual differences in tool use among octopuses are also striking. Some individuals are natural engineers, quickly mastering complex tool use tasks and even improvising new techniques. Others seem less interested in tools, preferring to rely on stealth and camouflage. These personality differences suggest that tool use in octopuses is not just instinctive behavior, but involves individual cognitive preferences and abilities. The study of octopus tool use has implications for our understanding of intelligence more broadly. It suggests that sophisticated planning and tool use can evolve independently of social complexity, challenging theories that link advanced cognition primarily to social pressures. It also demonstrates that intelligence can take many forms, not all of which resemble human intelligence. Current research is exploring the neural basis of tool use in octopuses, trying to understand how their distributed nervous system coordinates the complex behaviors involved in planning and execution. The answers may provide insights not just into octopus cognition, but into the fundamental principles that govern intelligent behavior in any complex system. The tool using Octopus represents a different approach to solving life's challenges. Where humans developed sophisticated technology and social cooperation, octopuses developed individual resourcefulness and adaptive flexibility. Both strategies work. Both produce intelligent behavior, but they suggest different paths that evolution can take toward the same goal: survival in a complex and challenging world. At some point, boredom invented entertainment. Picture this: you're a brilliant octopus living in a perfectly adequate aquarium. You have food, shelter, water at the right temperature, and absolutely nothing interesting to do. So what do? If you're like the octopuses in Professor Jennifer Martha's experiments, you invent games. The study of play in octopuses began almost by accident. Researchers at the University of Lethbridge were studying something entirely different when they noticed odd behavior from their captive octopuses. The animals had been given floating pill bottles as environmental enrichment, just something to make their tanks more interesting. But instead of ignoring the bottles or using them as simple hiding places, some octopuses began to play with them. Play is notoriously difficult to define scientifically, but it generally involves behavior that serves no immediate survival function, is performed when the animal is safe and well fed, and often involves repetition with variations. The octopuses definitely met these criteria. They would grab the floating pill bottles, position themselves near the aquarium's water intake, and then release the bottles in a way that caused the water current to push them back. Then they'd catch the bottles and do it again. One octopus repeated this behavior 14 times in a row. Another did it 21 times. This wasn't accidental or exploratory behavior. It was deliberate, repetitive, and appeared to be done purely for the sake of doing it. It was, in the words of the researchers, the marine equivalent of bouncing a ball. This discovery was remarkable for several reasons. Play behavior is considered a hallmark of intelligence and is typically associated with highly social animals. Young mammals play to develop motor skills, learn social rules, and establish relationships. Birds play to practice flying and hunting techniques. But octopuses are solitary creatures with no social structure and no extended parental care. What possible evolutionary advantage could play behavior provide to an animal that lives alone? The answer might lie in the relationship between play and learning. Play provides a safe environment for exploring new behaviors, testing the limits of physical abilities, and practicing skills that might be useful in unexpected situations. For an intelligent animal living in an unpredictable environment, play might be a way of maintaining cognitive flexibility, keeping the mind sharp and ready for novel challenges. Octopus play behavior extends beyond simple object manipulation. Some individuals engage in what appears to be purely exploratory play, investigating parts of their environment repeatedly without any apparent purpose. They'll taste rocks, manipulate decorations, and rearrange items in their tanks in ways that seem to serve no function other than curiosity satisfaction. The individual differences in play behavior among octopuses are striking. Some individuals are playful and exploratory, while others are more serious and goal-directed. Some prefer physical play with objects, while others seem more interested in visual play, creating color patterns and watching their own reflections. These differences suggest that octopuses have distinct personalities, individual preferences, and behavioral styles that remain consistent over time. Personality research in octopuses has revealed surprising diversity. Some individuals are bold and exploratory, quick to investigate new objects and situations. Others are cautious and conservative, preferring familiar routines and avoiding novelty. Some are aggressive and territorial, while others are more peaceful and accommodating. These personality traits are stable over time and appear to influence everything from hunting strategies to learning speed. The existence of personality in octopuses challenges traditional assumptions about what kinds of animals can have complex individual differences. Personality was once thought to be limited to social animals, where individual differences in behavior could influence group dynamics and reproductive success. But octopuses suggest that personality might be a more fundamental feature of intelligent animals, regardless of their social structure. Research has also revealed that octopus personalities are not fixed, but can change in response to experience. Young octopuses tend to be more exploratory and playful, while older individuals often become more cautious and routine-oriented. Stressful experiences can make normally bold octopuses more cautious, while enriched environments can make cautious individuals more exploratory. The emotional lives of octopuses remain largely mysterious, but play behavior provides tantalizing hints. The apparent enjoyment that some octopuses show during play sessions, the way they seem to seek out playful interactions with objects and even with humans, suggests the presence of positive emotional states. While we can't know what it feels like to be a playing octopus, the behavior certainly looks like fun. Play behavior in octopuses also shows evidence of creativity and innovation. Individuals often invent new games, modify existing play patterns, and combine different types of play in novel ways. This creativity extends to problem-solving situations, where playful individuals often discover unconventional solutions to puzzles and challenges. The study of octopus play has practical implications for animal welfare in captivity. Octopuses that are provided with opportunities for play and exploration show better physical health, more natural behaviors, and longer lifespans than those kept in barren environments. This suggests that play is not just a luxury for intelligent animals, but a genuine need that must be met for proper development and well-being. Current research is exploring the neural basis of play behavior in octopuses, trying to understand what brain mechanisms drive playful behavior and how they relate to learning and memory systems. The answers might provide insights into the fundamental nature of play and its role in the development of intelligence. The playing octopus reminds us that intelligence is not just about solving survival problems, but about finding joy and meaning in existence. Play represents the luxury of consciousness, the ability to engage with the world not just for necessity, but for the sheer pleasure of engagement. That such behavior evolved in a solitary marine animal suggests that the capacity for joy might be more fundamental to intelligence than we previously imagined. In the vast ocean of existence, where survival is serious business and every day brings new challenges, the octopus finds time to play. It's a reminder that even in the most unlikely places, consciousness finds ways to celebrate itself, to explore possibilities beyond mere necessity, to discover that existence can be not just endured, but enjoyed. They're the most interesting mollusks in terms of behavior, no question, but they're also some of the most puzzling. For decades, scientists have been trying to understand how octopuses became so intelligent while remaining so thoroughly antisocial. It's like discovering a brilliant hermit who invented calculus while living alone in a cave. The achievement is remarkable, but it challenges everything we thought we knew about how intelligence develops. The traditional explanation for the evolution of complex cognition is called the social intelligence hypothesis. The idea is straightforward. Group living is cognitively demanding. You need to keep track of who's who, remember past interactions, predict future behavior, form alliances, detect cheaters, and navigate complex social hierarchies. These pressures, the theory suggests, drove the evolution of larger brains and more sophisticated thinking abilities. This hypothesis explains a lot about human intelligence. We're supremely social creatures, obsessed with relationships, gossip, and group dynamics. Our brains are exquisitely tuned to detect social cues, remember faces, and understand the intentions of others. Most of our uniquely human abilities, from language to culture to cooperation, are fundamentally social in nature. The same pattern holds true for many other intelligent animals. Dolphins live in complex social groups with ever-shifting alliances and relationships. Elephants maintain extended family networks that can span generations. Primates engage in sophisticated political maneuvering that would make a diplomat proud. In each case, social complexity seems to go hand in hand with cognitive complexity. But then there's the octopus, sitting alone on the ocean floor like a brilliant introvert at a party, completely disrupting this neat theoretical framework. Octopuses are not just asocial, they're aggressively antisocial. They avoid other octopuses whenever possible, viewing them as either competitors for resources or potential threats to their safety. When they do encounter other octopuses, the interactions are usually brief and often hostile. Their mating behavior epitomizes this antisocial nature. Male octopuses approach females with extreme caution, often using specialized arm structures to transfer sperm from a safe distance. The male's caution is well-founded, as females have been known to eat their mates, treating reproduction as an opportunity for a nutritious snack. It's hardly the foundation for complex social relationships. Despite this thorough lack of social life, octopuses display cognitive abilities that rival those of highly social animals. They use tools, solve complex problems, show evidence of planning and foresight, and demonstrate individual personalities. They can learn by observation, remember past experiences, and adapt their behavior to new situations. By most measures of intelligence, they're as smart as many animals that live in complex social groups. This presents a significant challenge to the social intelligence hypothesis. If social pressures are necessary for the evolution of complex cognition, how did such antisocial creatures become so intelligent? The answer seems to lie in the recognition that social pressures are not the only evolutionary force capable of driving cognitive development. The alternative explanation is called the ecological intelligence hypothesis. Instead of social challenges, this theory focuses on environmental challenges as the driver of cognitive evolution. According to this view, intelligence evolves in response to the demands of finding food, avoiding predators, and navigating complex environments. For octopuses, these ecological pressures are intense. They live in three-dimensional environments that change constantly with tides, currents, and seasonal variations. They must find food in a habitat where prey items are scattered, hidden, and often well defended. They must avoid an impressive array of predators while lacking any protective shell or armor. Perhaps most importantly, octopuses must accomplish all of this while being extremely vulnerable. Their soft bodies and slow reproductive cycles mean that a single mistake can be fatal. There's no margin for error, no opportunity to learn from failures. Only the cleverest individuals survive to reproduce, creating intense selective pressure for cognitive abilities. The ecological demands on octopuses are further complicated by their complex life cycle. Most species live for only 1 to 2 years, meaning they must master their environment quickly without the benefit of extended parental care or social learning. They're born as tiny larvae that drift in the open ocean, eventually settling in completely unfamiliar habitat where they must immediately begin fending for themselves. This combination of ecological complexity and time pressure may have created the perfect conditions for the evolution of rapid learning and flexible problem-solving abilities. Octopuses needed to become smart, fast, and they needed to be able to adapt to new situations without the benefit of cultural knowledge or social support. The octopus intelligence story also highlights the importance of convergent evolution, the tendency for similar solutions to evolve independently in response to similar challenges. Both vertebrates and cephalopods evolved complex eyes, sophisticated nervous systems, and advanced cognitive abilities, but they did so completely independently. This suggests that intelligence may be a more general solution to the challenges of complex life than previously thought. Recent research has begun to explore whether octopuses might be more social than previously recognized. While they don't form permanent groups or maintain long-term relationships, they do show sophisticated communication abilities and can engage in complex interactions when they do encounter other octopuses. Some species even show evidence of temporary aggregations during feeding or mating, suggesting that their antisocial reputation might be somewhat overstated. However, even if octopuses are slightly more social than we thought, they're still nowhere near as social as other intelligent animals. Their intelligence clearly evolved primarily in response to ecological rather than social pressures, providing a crucial test case for our theories about the evolution of cognition. The octopus intelligence mystery has important implications for our understanding of consciousness and cognition more broadly. It suggests that there may be multiple pathways to intelligence, not all of which require social complexity. This has implications not just for understanding life on Earth, but for speculating about the possibility of intelligence elsewhere in the universe. If intelligence can evolve in response to purely ecological pressures, then it might be more common in nature than we previously thought. Complex environments might be sufficient to drive the evolution of complex minds, regardless of whether those minds interact with other minds. The lonely genius octopus reminds us that intelligence is not necessarily a social phenomenon, but might be a more fundamental response to the challenges of existence in a complex world. Nature, it seems, discovered two completely different recipes for brewing intelligence. For most of our scientific history, we thought there was only one way to build a smart animal. Throw them into a complex social group, add some competitive pressure, and wait for evolution to select for bigger brains and cleverer behaviors. Then the octopus taught us that sometimes the best way to get smart is to spend your entire life avoiding others of your kind. The story of intelligence on Earth is really the story of two great experiments running in parallel. In one experiment, conducted primarily by vertebrates, intelligence evolved as a response to the cognitive demands of group living. Social animals needed to remember who was who, track changing relationships, cooperate when beneficial, and compete when necessary. They needed theory of mind, the ability to understand that others have thoughts, intentions, and knowledge different from their own. This social path to intelligence produced remarkable results. Humans developed language, culture, and technology. Dolphins created complex alliance networks and cultural traditions passed down through generations. Elephants developed elaborate mourning rituals and long-distance communication systems. Primates learned to use tools, engage in politics, and even conduct what appears to be warfare. But, parallel to this social intelligence experiment, cephalopods were conducting a completely different investigation into the possibilities of mind. Starting from the same simple mollusk body plan that gave us clams and snails, they evolved intelligence as a response to ecological rather than social pressures. Their laboratory was not the complex dynamics of group living, but the three-dimensional puzzle of ocean survival. The ecological intelligence pathway faced different challenges and developed different solutions. Instead of needing to understand other minds, octopuses needed to understand environments. Instead of tracking social relationships, they needed to track spatial relationships. Instead of cooperating with others, they needed to become completely self-reliant. These different evolutionary pressures led to different types of intelligence. Social animals tend to excel at communication, cooperation, and understanding the mental states of others. Ecological intelligences like octopuses excel at problem-solving, spatial reasoning, and adaptive flexibility. Both types of intelligence are real. Both are sophisticated, but they're optimized for different challenges. The differences become apparent when you compare how social and ecological intelligences approach similar problems. When social animals encounter a new challenge, they often look to others for guidance, learning through imitation and cultural transmission. When octopuses encounter a new challenge, they rely entirely on their own cognitive resources, experimenting with different approaches until they find one that works. This difference in learning style has important implications. Social learners can benefit from the accumulated wisdom of their group, building on solutions discovered by previous generations. But they can also get trapped by cultural traditions that may no longer be optimal. Ecological learners must discover everything for themselves, but they're also more likely to find novel solutions to problems. The octopus approach to intelligence has several advantages in unpredictable environments. Their cognitive flexibility allows them to adapt quickly to changing conditions without being constrained by social expectations or cultural traditions. Their self-reliance means they can exploit opportunities that social animals might miss because they're focused on group coordination. But ecological intelligence also has costs. Without the benefit of social learning, each individual must rediscover solutions that others have already found. There's no opportunity to build on the innovations of previous generations, so progress is slower and more repetitive. Knowledge dies with each individual rather than accumulating over time. The comparison between social and ecological intelligence also reveals something important about the nature of consciousness itself. Social animals tend to be highly aware of other minds, developing sophisticated abilities to read emotions, intentions, and thoughts. Ecological intelligences, like octopuses, seem to be more focused on understanding and manipulating their physical environment. This doesn't mean that ecological intelligences are less conscious or less sophisticated, just that their consciousness is oriented differently. Where a dolphin might be exquisitely aware of the social dynamics in its pod, an octopus might be equally aware of the subtle changes in water currents, light patterns, and chemical gradients in its territory. Recent research has begun to explore whether these two types of intelligence might be more connected than previously thought. Some scientists propose that both social and ecological intelligence are variations on a more fundamental cognitive toolkit, a set of mental abilities that can be applied to either social or environmental challenges depending on an animal's lifestyle. This more unified view suggests that the core components of intelligence, things like memory, learning, pattern recognition, and flexible problem-solving, are domain-general abilities that evolution has repeatedly discovered and refined. The specific applications of these abilities, whether to social or ecological challenges, may be less important than the underlying cognitive mechanisms. The study of octopus intelligence has also revealed that the distinction between social and ecological intelligence may not be as clear-cut as once thought. While octopuses are largely solitary, they still need to understand the behavior of other species in their environment. They must predict the movements of prey, avoid the hunting patterns of predators, and sometimes even form temporary associations with other species for mutual benefit. This suggests that even ecological intelligence involves a kind of social cognition, just directed toward other species rather than members of one's own species. The octopus that learns to predict the behavior of a crab is using cognitive abilities that are not fundamentally different from those used by a chimpanzee to predict the behavior of another chimpanzee. The two-pathway model of intelligence evolution has important implications for astrobiology and the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. If intelligence can evolve through either social or ecological pressures, then it might be more common in the universe than we previously thought. Complex environments alone might be sufficient to drive the evolution of complex minds, even without the social complexity that characterizes human intelligence. The octopus reminds us that intelligence is not a uniquely human phenomenon, nor is it necessarily a social phenomenon. It's a more general response to the challenges of existence in a complex world, a solution that evolution has discovered multiple times in multiple ways. Understanding these different pathways to intelligence expands our appreciation for the diversity of possible minds and the many different ways that consciousness might manifest in the universe. The octopus gives us a rare chance to peek behind the curtain of consciousness itself. In laboratories around the world, researchers are unraveling the mysteries of these eight-armed enigmas, and each discovery seems to raise more questions than it answers. It's like trying to understand the nature of intelligence by studying aliens, except these aliens happen to live in our oceans and are surprisingly willing to participate in experiments. Modern octopus research reads like a collection of science fiction stories that happen to be true. Scientists use tiny cameras to watch octopuses hunt in the wild high-speed video to capture their lightning-fast color changes and sophisticated brain imaging to peer into their distributed minds. Each technological advance reveals new layers of complexity in creatures that continue to surprise even their most dedicated researchers. One of the most remarkable recent discoveries involves octopus sleep and dreaming. Researchers noticed that sleeping octopuses sometimes change color and texture in complex patterns, cycling through different appearances every few seconds. The patterns look remarkably similar to the displays they make when awake, suggesting they might be dreaming about their daily activities, hunting, hiding, exploring. If octopuses do dream, it would mean that REM sleep and dreaming evolved independently in cephalopods and vertebrates, converging on the same solution to the problem of memory consolidation and neural maintenance. It would also mean that the capacity for dream experiences, for living in imaginary worlds while asleep, is not unique to warm-blooded animals, but might be a more general feature of complex nervous systems. Research into octopus learning has revealed cognitive abilities that seem to emerge fresh in each generation. Unlike social animals that can learn from parents or peers, each octopus must discover the world anew. Yet they do so with remarkable speed and sophistication, suggesting that their brains come pre-equipped with powerful learning algorithms that can rapidly extract patterns from experience. Laboratory studies of octopus problem-solving have documented behaviors that challenge our understanding of invertebrate cognition. Octopuses can learn to navigate complex three-dimensional mazes, remember solutions for weeks, and transfer learned strategies to new but similar problems. They show evidence of insight learning, suddenly understanding how to solve problems without the gradual improvement typically seen in trial and error learning. Perhaps most intriguingly, octopuses demonstrate what appears to be metacognition, the ability to think about their own thinking. When faced with difficult problems, they often pause and seem to contemplate the challenge before acting. This suggests they might have some awareness of their own mental processes, a form of consciousness that was once thought to be uniquely human. Research into octopus communication has revealed a visual language more complex than many suspected. The patterns of color and texture that ripple across their bodies aren't just camouflage or simple emotional displays, but appear to convey specific information about intentions, territorial boundaries, and social status. Some researchers have even begun to compile dictionaries of octopus body language, trying to decode the meaning of different patterns and movements. The study of octopus development has provided insights into how complex behaviors emerge without cultural transmission. Young octopuses receive no parental care beyond the initial provision of eggs, yet they quickly develop sophisticated hunting strategies, camouflage techniques, and problem-solving abilities. This suggests that much of their behavioral repertoire is either genetically encoded or emerges from general learning principles applied to their specific environment. Researchers have also discovered that octopuses show remarkable individual variation in cognitive abilities and personality traits. Some individuals are natural problem solvers, quickly mastering complex tasks and inventing novel solutions. Others are more conservative, relying on tried and true strategies. Still others seem to prefer exploration over exploitation, spending their time investigating their environment rather than optimizing their foraging efficiency. These individual differences extend to social behavior as well. While octopuses are generally solitary, some individuals are more tolerant of others and can even engage in what appears to be play behavior with humans or other octopuses. This variation suggests that the antisocial reputation of octopuses might be somewhat overstated, or at least that there's more flexibility in their social behavior than previously recognized. Modern research techniques have also revealed the sophistication of octopus sensory systems. Their skin contains not just chromatophores for color change, but also sensory receptors that can detect texture, chemicals, and even electrical fields. Their arms are equipped with thousands of chemotactile receptors that function like taste buds, allowing them to identify objects by touch alone. They can literally taste their environment with their fingertips. The distributed nature of octopus intelligence continues to yield surprises. Researchers have found that different arms can learn different tasks independently, and that severed arms can continue to hunt and feed for hours after separation from the body. This challenges our understanding of what it means to be a unified conscious entity and suggests that consciousness itself might be more distributed and modular than we typically assume. Research into the genetics of octopus intelligence is just beginning, but early results suggest that their cognitive abilities might be based on different molecular mechanisms than those used by vertebrates. This could provide insights into the fundamental principles that govern intelligent behavior, independent of the specific biological implementation. The study of octopuses in their natural environment has revealed behaviors that never appear in laboratory settings. Wild octopuses have been observed using tools in ways not seen in captivity, engaging in complex hunting strategies that involve cooperation with other species, and showing evidence of cultural transmission of behaviors within local populations. Current research is also exploring the potential applications of octopus biology to human technology. The mechanisms behind their rapid camouflage are inspiring the development of adaptive materials that could be used for military camouflage or fashion. Their distributed nervous system architecture is informing research into decentralized computing systems and robotics. The Octopus Research Enterprise represents a unique opportunity to study intelligence that evolved completely independently from our own. Every discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of how minds can emerge from the activity of neurons, regardless of how those neurons are organized. In studying octopuses, we're not just learning about them, we're learning about the fundamental nature of consciousness and cognition itself. Now, here's something wonderful. We're living through a golden age of octopus discovery. Every year brings new revelations about these creatures that would have seemed like fantasy just decades ago. Scientists are developing technologies that can peer into octopus minds with unprecedented clarity, track their behavior in the wild with remarkable detail, and even begin to decode their visual language of color and pattern. The future of octopus research is being shaped by advances in neuroscience technology that would make science fiction writers envious. Researchers are developing miniaturized sensors that can record neural activity in freely moving octopuses, revealing how their distributed brains coordinate complex behaviors. These devices are so small and lightweight that they don't interfere with normal octopus behavior, allowing scientists to eavesdrop on the electrical conversations between different parts of the octopus nervous system. Brain imaging technology is also revolutionizing our understanding of octopus cognition. New techniques can visualize neural activity in real time, showing which parts of the octopus brain become active during different types of thinking. This is revealing that octopus brains process information in ways that are both similar to and radically different from vertebrate brains, providing insights into the fundamental principles of neural computation. Genetic research is opening entirely new windows into octopus biology. Scientists are beginning to identify the genes responsible for octopus intelligence, camouflage abilities, and behavioral flexibility. Surprisingly, many of these genes are found in other animals, including humans, but they're used in completely different ways in octopuses. This suggests that evolution has repeatedly discovered similar molecular tools but applied them to different problems. The study of octopus genetics is also revealing the molecular basis of their remarkable learning abilities. Researchers have found that octopus brains show unusual patterns of gene expression, with certain genes being turned on and off rapidly in response to new experiences. This genetic flexibility might be one of the secrets behind their ability to adapt quickly to new situations. Artificial intelligence research is increasingly drawing inspiration from octopus biology. The distributed computing architecture of octopus nervous systems is informing the development of new types of artificial neural networks that could be more flexible and robust than current designs. Engineers are particularly interested in how octopuses coordinate multiple semi-independent processing units, a challenge that's relevant to everything from robotics to distributed computing systems. The development of bio-inspired materials based on octopus camouflage is another exciting frontier. Researchers are creating artificial chromatophores that can change color and pattern in response to electrical signals, potentially leading to adaptive camouflage systems, smart fabrics, and displays that could revolutionize human technology. Some prototype materials can already mimic simple octopus color changes, though they're still far from matching the speed and complexity of the real thing. Environmental monitoring technology is revealing new aspects of octopus behavior in the wild. Underwater camera systems with artificial intelligence can now identify and track individual octopuses over long periods, documenting their daily routines, territorial behaviors, and interactions with other species. This research is showing that wild octopuses are even more complex and sophisticated than laboratory studies suggested. Climate change research is also focusing increased attention on octopuses as potential indicators of ocean health. Their complex life cycles and sensitivity to environmental changes make them valuable sentinels for monitoring the effects of warming oceans, acidification, and pollution. Understanding how octopus populations respond to environmental changes could provide early warnings about broader ecosystem impacts. The future of octopus research will likely include more sophisticated studies of their communication abilities. Researchers are developing pattern recognition systems that can analyze the complex visual displays octopuses create with their color-changing skin. These systems might eventually allow us to decode octopus body language with enough precision to understand what they're trying to communicate, potentially opening up new forms of interspecies communication. Virtual reality technology is being adapted to study octopus perception and cognition. Researchers can now create controlled visual environments for octopuses, presenting them with specific stimuli and observing their responses. This allows for much more precise studies of how octopuses process visual information and make decisions based on what they see. The ethical dimensions of octopus research are also evolving. As our understanding of octopus intelligence and consciousness grows, questions about animal welfare and research ethics become more complex. Many researchers are advocating for new guidelines that recognize the sophisticated cognitive abilities of octopuses and ensure that research is conducted in ways that minimize stress and maximize the animal's well-being. Conservation efforts for octopuses are being informed by new research into their ecological roles and population dynamics. Understanding how octopuses fit into marine ecosystems and how they respond to environmental pressures is crucial for protecting these remarkable creatures in an era of rapid environmental change. The integration of octopus research across different scientific disciplines is accelerating discovery. Neuroscientists work with marine biologists, computer scientists collaborate with material engineers, and behaviorists partner with roboticists. This interdisciplinary approach is revealing connections and insights that might be missed by researchers working in isolation. Perhaps most excitingly, the future of octopus research promises to address some of the deepest questions about consciousness and intelligence. By studying minds that evolved completely independently from our own, we might gain insights into the fundamental nature of awareness, learning, and thought that could never be obtained by studying only vertebrate brains. The octopus continues to surprise us, challenge our assumptions, and expand our understanding of what's possible in the realm of biological intelligence. As our research tools become more sophisticated and our theoretical frameworks more nuanced, we're likely to discover that these remarkable creatures are even more extraordinary than we currently imagine. In the vast laboratory of the ocean, the octopus remains one of our most important teachers about the nature of mind itself. Let's imagine, just for a moment, what it might feel like to be an octopus. Not the physical sensations, though those would be extraordinary enough, but the actual experience of consciousness distributed across 8 semi-independent thinking appendages. What would it be like to have most of your neurons scattered throughout your body, thinking thoughts in your arms while your brain handles the bigger picture? This is perhaps the most profound mystery that octopus research presents: the nature of distributed consciousness. We humans experience awareness as something centralized, unified, emanating from somewhere behind our eyes. But an octopus experiences the world through multiple streams of consciousness flowing simultaneously through different parts of its body. It's like being a small orchestra where each instrument can improvise while still contributing to the overall symphony. The philosophical implications of octopus consciousness are staggering. If consciousness can be distributed across multiple semi-independent processing units, what does that tell us about the nature of awareness itself? Are we looking at a single conscious entity with multiple access points, or multiple conscious entities working in coordination? The question challenges our most basic assumptions about what it means to be a unified self. Recent research into the neural basis of octopus behavior suggests that their experience might be even more complex than we imagined. When an octopus reaches for something, the arm that does the reaching appears to have detailed awareness of the task, while other arms remain focused on their own activities. It's simultaneous multitasking at a level that human consciousness simply cannot match. This distributed awareness might explain some of the octopus's remarkable abilities. When they change camouflage patterns, different parts of their body can match different aspects of the environment simultaneously. Their skin-based vision system allows each patch of body surface to see and respond to local conditions without waiting for central processing. It's consciousness as a collaborative network rather than a hierarchical command structure. The speed of octopus decision-making also suggests something unique about their cognitive architecture. They can process multiple streams of sensory information simultaneously and coordinate complex responses in milliseconds. This parallel processing capability might be possible precisely because their consciousness is distributed rather than centralized, allowing different parts of their nervous system to work on different aspects of problems simultaneously. But distributed consciousness raises puzzling questions about the unity of experience. When we make a decision, we have the sense that there's a single we making that choice. What does decision-making feel like when multiple semi-independent conscious systems are involved? How does an octopus coordinate its various neural modules to produce coherent, goal-directed behavior? Current research suggests that the octopus brain acts more like a coordinator than a commander, setting overall goals and priorities while allowing the arm brains to handle tactical decisions. It's like the difference between a micromanaging boss who controls every detail and a strategic leader who delegates responsibility while maintaining oversight. This delegation of cognitive authority might be what allows octopuses to be so behaviorally flexible and responsive. The study of octopus consciousness also illuminates the relationship between intelligence and awareness. These creatures demonstrate sophisticated problem-solving abilities, learning, memory, and even apparent emotional responses. But their consciousness is organized so differently from ours that it challenges our ability to understand what their inner experience might be like. Some researchers have proposed that octopus consciousness might be more like a jazz ensemble than a classical orchestra, with each part improvising in response to the others while maintaining an overall coherent performance. This model suggests that consciousness doesn't require a single control center, but can emerge from the interactions between multiple semi-independent processing systems. The emotional lives of octopuses remain largely mysterious, but their behavior suggests the presence of complex internal states. They show what appears to be curiosity, frustration, satisfaction, and even playfulness. How these emotions are experienced in a distributed consciousness is an open question that touches on some of the deepest mysteries of subjective experience. The octopus's relationship with time might also be fundamentally different from ours. With multiple processing streams operating simultaneously, their experience of temporal flow might be more complex than our linear, unified sense of time's passage. Different parts of their nervous system might operate on different timescales, creating a multidimensional experience of temporality. Sleep and dreaming in octopuses add another layer to the consciousness puzzle. If they do dream, as their color-changing sleep behavior suggests, what would dreams be like for a distributed consciousness? Would different parts of their nervous system dream different dreams? Or would there be a unified dream experience somehow coordinated across their entire distributed neural network? The study of octopus consciousness has important implications for our understanding of consciousness in general. It suggests that awareness is not necessarily tied to any particular neural architecture, but might be a more general property of complex information processing systems. This has implications not just for understanding animal minds, but for questions about machine consciousness and the possibility of artificial awareness. Philosophy of mind has traditionally focused on human consciousness, assuming that our centralized, unified experience represents the natural form of awareness. But the octopus suggests that consciousness might be more flexible and diverse than we imagined. Understanding distributed consciousness might be crucial for recognizing awareness in forms that don't resemble our own. The octopus also challenges the boundary between individual and collective consciousness. With multiple semi-independent neural systems working in coordination, an octopus might be considered either a single conscious entity or a collection of conscious entities that have learned to cooperate so well they appear unified. This ambiguity has implications for how we think about consciousness in other complex systems. Current neuroscience research is just beginning to develop the tools needed to study distributed consciousness empirically. New techniques for recording neural activity simultaneously from multiple brain regions might eventually allow us to observe how different parts of the octopus nervous system coordinate their activities to produce unified behavior. The mystery of octopus consciousness reminds us that there might be many different ways to be aware, to experience the world, to exist as a conscious entity. In studying these creatures, we're not just learning about octopuses, but exploring the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. They offer us a glimpse into alternative forms of awareness that evolution has discovered in the depths of the ocean. Perhaps most importantly, the octopus teaches us humility about the nature of consciousness. We still don't fully understand how our own unified awareness emerges from the activity of billions of neurons. The discovery that consciousness can also emerge from a distributed network of semi-independent processing units adds another layer of mystery to one of science's greatest puzzles: how and why the universe becomes aware of itself. And so, we drift gently back to where we began, floating in the quiet depths where mystery and wonder still reign. We've followed the octopus through its remarkable journey, from ancient armored giant to modern soft-bodied genius, watched it abandon its shell and discover new forms of protection in intelligence and artistry. We've seen arms that think, skin that sees, and minds that evolved along a completely different path from our own. The octopus reminds us that intelligence isn't a human monopoly, that consciousness can take forms we're only beginning to imagine. In the vast experiment of life on Earth, evolution discovered at least two ways to build a thinking creature. We represent one path, the octopus represents another, and both lead to the same beautiful destination: awareness emerging from the dance of molecules and neurons. Tonight, as you settle into sleep, perhaps you'll carry with you a little wonder for these remarkable creatures. Somewhere in the deep ocean, an octopus is changing color in response to dreams we can't fathom, solving problems we couldn't conceive, experiencing the world through senses we don't possess. They are proof that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than we know. And if you found any peace in this gentle journey through the depths of intelligence, if the mysteries of the octopus helped quiet your thoughts or spark your curiosity, we'd be honored if you'd join us for more wandering expeditions through the wonders of science. Thanks for diving deep with us here at Sleep Science. Sleep well and dream of eight-armed wonders dancing through coral gardens beneath the waves.